Will Mel and Jack ever get the ending they deserve, or are the odds stacked against them? Was their love story doomed from the beginning? Most importantly, will Jack even make it to season 3? It seems like the very first moment that Jack and Mel laid eyes on each other, they immediately knew something major was about to happen in both of their lives. Mel accepted a job in the small town of Virgin River as a nurse practitioner and left the life she had in Los Angeles behind to relocate to a remote town in the middle of nowhere. Jack and Mel instantly connected over drinks when she visited his bar for the first time. Their conversation flowed easily and naturally, but Jack thought Mel was just another big city girl with a fresh manicure and an expensive purse. But she soon proved him wrong. Viewers might have thought Jack and Mel would be sharing a kiss after he walked her to her cabin at the end of the night, but instead, Jack silently noticed her wedding ring and the two parted ways without any real affection. But that was just the beginning. It wasn't long before Jack and Mel found themselves handling an emotional issue when they realized a baby had been abandoned on the porch of the medical clinic. Jack's PTSD from his time in the Marines and Mel's desire to call Child Protective Services added a few complications into the mix, until the baby's mother, Lily, decided to reclaim her child. But the most complicated part of all was the surfacing of Charmaine, Jack's quote-unquote girlfriend. When Mel first met Charmaine, she was rightfully shocked. Who wouldn't be after spending that much time with a guy like Jack and not hearing a single thing about his significant other? Mel wasn't the only one that was taken aback by Charmaine's appearance, but the path to true love is never that smooth. Jack and Charmaine were approaching their 2-year anniversary, despite the fact that Jack tried to dedicate himself to keeping things totally casual with Charmaine the entire time. But these two were on totally different pages. Jack knew that he was already starting to find interest in someone other than Charmaine, so his conflicted feelings and emotions were clear as day. Instead of planning a 2-year anniversary celebration with his girlfriend, Jack took Mel and Lily's baby out for a picnic, and later on, over drinks, Jack expressed to Mel that he would miss her if she ever decided to leave Virgin River. He tried to open up the dialogue about Mel's wedding ring, but their moment was interrupted by Charmaine, who affectionately planted a kiss on Jack's mouth right in front of Mel. Mel's vibe towards Jack instantly went cold, and rightfully so. He should have spoken up about the fact that someone in their small town had feelings for him, even if the feelings weren't exactly equally reciprocated from his side. Hope noticed that things between Jack and Mel weren't going too smoothly, so she asked for both of their help with carrying her mattress downstairs, just to force the two to work together. It was a very clear plan on Hope's part. By this point, the chemistry between Mel and Jack was obvious to everyone. Jack spent a good amount of time trying to convince Mel that things between him and Charmaine were totally casual and unofficial. After Jack's back spasm forced them to take a break from moving the bed, Mel was surprised to discover old scars and wounds on Jack's body while trying to help him with muscle cream. At that moment, she realized that they both had a lot of past trauma to think about in their lives that wouldn't make a relationship easy, no matter how much they both secretly wanted it. But the worst was yet to come. When Jack and Mel got stranded on the side of the road on their way to Myrtle Farms, they are finally able to have a deeper heart-to-heart about the Charmaine situation. Jack reflected upon the fact that he witnessed the downfall of his parents' relationship since his dad never knew how to properly treat his mom. He admitted that he feared he would be the same kind of failing romantic partner that his dad was. He also admitted that he knew Charmaine's feelings for him were way more serious than his feelings for her. Mel totally understood all of that and avoided all judgment, but still had to explain to him that she didn't want to be caught in the middle of anything. Who wants to be caught in the middle of a love triangle? Literally no one. That could have been the end of that conversation, but this is the Netflix drama. They were held at gunpoint together and forced to go to an illegal pot-growing camp to save the life of a man who'd been shot, and although it was terrifying, it ended up bringing them even closer together. Fortunately, they both ended up coming out of this situation safe and sound. Mel witnessed a night terror from Jack and realized that his trauma from being in the Marines was a lot more serious than she ever realized before. Sadly, when she tried to get him to open up about things, it wasn't something he wanted to do. Jack finally came to the conclusion that he needed to cut things off with Charmaine if he wanted anything to blossom with Mel. He decided to have the difficult conversation with Charmaine and let her know he wasn't interested in a committed relationship. That is a conversation that is never fun to have, but Jack knew that he needed to do it. As soon as Charmaine walked away, Jack and Mel shared a dance together, making it pretty clear to anyone watching the show that they were fully falling in love with each other. We all knew that Mel was hiding something big from her past. She was still devastated from the loss of her child, but where was her husband? We saw him in flashbacks, but most of us assumed that they had split because dealing with a loss that big was so hard to manage. The reality was hugely different. In a heartbreaking scene, we learned that Mark isn't simply in LA. He died, and Mel feels like it was completely her fault. Jack might have battle scars, but Mel is totally wounded too. Although Mel tells Jack Mark has passed, it takes her a while to explain the situation fully. Another amazing detail about the love story between Jack and Mel is the fact that even though they both had a lot of trauma to discuss, they were both patient with each other the entire way through until they were both ready to talk about things. Charmaine and Jack officially called things off when Charmaine told Jack she didn't want to wait around for him to fall in love with her. She suggested to him that his feelings for her might have changed because Mel arrived in town, but Jack denied that. He knew before Mel showed up that he didn't want to fully commit to Charmaine. Jack proved his feelings for Mel with a huge romantic gesture, and he did so much more than just showing up on her doorstep with a bouquet of flowers. He actually finished fixing her cabin so that she would be comfortable in her living space. It was a super thoughtful and caring thing for him to do. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, they end up kissing. The first time that Jack and Mel enjoyed dinner together at her cabin, it was a totally romantic setup that led to a super romantic conversation about fate and serendipity. They discussed the fact that somehow everything that they did in their lives prior to meeting each other allowed them to ultimately come into each other's lives. But the joy and excitement of their newfound romance got slapped in the face with a tough dose of reality once Jack discovered that Charmaine was pregnant with his child. Mel wasn't comfortable with the idea of being with a man who was about to have a child with another woman when she herself had experienced the birth of a stillborn baby in the past. Tensions ran high between Mel and Jack for a cool minute there because Mel just couldn't deal with any of it. In fact, between the finale of Season 1 and the premiere of Season 2, Mel took a trip to California to visit her dead husband's grave without even telling Jack that she was leaving. Somehow, someway, after Mel returned to Virgin River, she and Jack ended up taking their relationship to the next level, and they ended up finally hooking up. But even after that, Mel couldn't get past her emotional issues. As much as she wanted to move on and be with Jack, she wasn't done grieving for her lost husband. When Mark's anniversary rolls around, Jack finds her lying in bed sobbing her heart out. Like always, he is there to pick up the pieces and make sure that she's okay. Jack has made it clear to Mel several times that he loves her and he's willing to wait around, but towards the end of Season 2, he thinks it's time to give up. During a little heart-to-heart with Doc, he says it might be time to stop trying and put down the bat. That's when the real magic happens. As Jack gets deeper and deeper into trying to take down Calvin, he goes missing for a day. Mel is beside herself with worry, and when she eventually tracks him down, she's so relieved that she has no choice but to face up to the fact that she's totally in love with him. She tells him, "I love you. I love that you can make me laugh when I don't want to. I love that you listen more than you talk. I love that you were just willing to be my friend. I love that you built me a home. I love waking up next to you." It's the scene that fans waited 2 whole seasons for, and it was worth every second. Finally, all the barriers that Mel has put up come crumbling down, and as you can imagine, they have a pretty good night. If we know anything though, it's that nothing is ever smooth sailing in Virgin River. The issues between Jack, Mel, and Charmaine continued at full force at the beginning of Season 2. Mel's concern about Charmaine and Jack's relationship growing closer due to the pregnancy and the discovery that Charmaine was carrying twins were 2 major problems. The biggest problem of all to take place in Season 2 of the show would have to be the shooting of Jack. Someone shot him and left him bleeding out to die in the floor of his bar. Mel discovered him and immediately started trying to do anything she could to help him survive. Her reaction to finding him there was absolutely devastating. The man she loves, despite all of the complicated ups and downs of their relationship, could potentially be dead before Season 3 of the show premieres. And by the way, Netflix has not even officially given word on if Season 3 will even happen yet. Could everything these two have worked for be for nothing? The relationship between Jack and Mel grew from nothing into something major in a very short matter of time. It was filled with so many complications, from his secret drinking problem to PTSD, loss, and even stillbirth. It's clear that Jack fell in love with Mel because they share the type of connection that doesn't come around often. They make each other feel safe in a world that's thrown so much at them. But will they make it? What do you think Season 3 has in store for Mel and Jack? Do you feel like they are genuinely soulmates? Let us know in the comments below.